Hi everybody, Anthony here from Awesome Anthony Productions, here to continue Spooktober! With my review of the long-awaited latest entry in the franchise that popularized torture porn back in the early 2000s, Saw 10. Before we get started, at the end, if you like the review, please just leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss any of my new content. Now let's get into it. Now those of you that have seen the other films in the franchise know that Tobin Bell's John Kramer, aka the Jigsaw Killer, aided at the end of Saw 3 along with his accomplice Amanda, while his accomplice Hoffman went on to keep his work alive. So, how the hell is he back for Saw 10?
Zombie! He's a zombie!
Well, this one isn't actually a proper sequel or a proper prequel. It's actually a midquel taking place in between the events of Saw and Saw 2. And this time, instead of John being the big bad boogeyman looming over the film, he's actually our main character, and a pretty damn compelling one. When we meet up with John here, he's just being told that there's no good treatment options left for his brain cancer and that he doesn't really have long left. But when he hears about an experimental procedure in Mexico City,
our program is a two-pronged treatment outside Mexico City. The results have been stunning.
run by Dr. Cecilia Peterson, played by, I'm going to do my best to pronounce this, Synnøve Makodi Lund?
Synnøve Makodi Lund.
That has helped another patient in one of his cancer support groups go into total remission. So, John drops $250,000, goes to Mexico for the procedure, and leaves the facility a changed man, ready to leave his life of torture and traps behind and just enjoy it going forward.
Today, I start living!
But after the procedure, when he goes back to drop off a thank you gift, he realizes that the place has been ransacked. And this whole thing was a scam to take advantage of the most vulnerable and defraud people that are looking for a last chance for their cancer treatment.
You're a sick, twisted bitch.
So with the help of Shawnee Smith's returning Amanda, John rounds up everyone involved in the scan, including Dr. Peterson, Renata Vaca's Gabriela, Octavio Hinojos's Mateo, Joshua Akamoto's Diego, and Paulette Hernandez's Valentina for some new brutal tests that will teach these assholes a lesson or two about stealing from the most vulnerable.
Yeah! Shasharisha!
This movie's awesome, and I'll say it might even be a modern horror classic. By abandoning the tropes of the other Saw movies that became super annoying and played out by Saw 3D, this movie allows for inventive, unique, and demented fun, and a much deeper look into the psyche of the Jigsaw Killer that does an amazing job at making him a sympathetic, almost anti-hero. Yeah, the Jigsaw Killer. Like I said before, we abandoned a lot of the tropes, so instead of having a protagonist that includes, like, dirty cops, criminals, druggies, Chris Rock, insurance CEOs, all with varying levels of character development and acting that ranges from good to just straight up terrible.
You're crazy. You know that? I knew you were crazy the minute I laid eyes on you. Crazy.
Saw 10 makes John the main protagonist here, like I said, and by having his victims be a bunch of pretty shitty people that were trying to scam cancer patients, it really allows you to drop those feelings of dread and nihilism and just have fun with this insanely gory, darkly funny, and surprisingly well-written horror movie.
You all pretended to cure me, but what I have planned for each of you is very real.
Saw movies usually throw you right into the action, starting off with a nasty trap to build you up and put you in the mood for the hour and a half of torture that's coming up. But this one actually has a smaller opening, outside of a trap that's actually just something that Jigsaw imagines. Instead, we get some time to get reacquainted with John and see what his life is like when he's not kidnapping and torturing people in attempts to rehabilitate them, as we know that it doesn't really work all that well.
You want to know the best thing that happened to me after having to cut off my own arm? Is handicapped parking at the damn mall!
But this goes a long way to make him a sympathetic character instead of a one-note villain. And this beginning is also kind of funny too, like when we see John just chilling in a public park while kids play around him. Meanwhile, he's doodling in his book, designing some horrific traps. But as we go from there to John attending cancer support groups to finally learning about this experimental procedure, the film takes on a weirdly hopeful tone leading up to his surgery. And this all just helps to draw you back into the world of Saw and actually root for and sympathize with the Jigsaw Killer of all people, since all of the movies before, though they gave some backstory and had some convoluted plot elements for his backstory,
Look at the top of his head!
didn't really work all that well in terms of making him a very sympathetic character. It's also refreshing to just get this much character development, because outside of John, Amanda, maybe Detective Hoffman, most of the characters populating the movies beforehand were just cardboard cutouts there for the gory slaughter.
Is he dead yet?
Not yet!
because once we went through the slower yet well-written opening of the film and John starts to work with Amanda to round up all these bastards and teach them a lesson, all of that character development and writing really leaves you drawn in and ready to absorb what kind of twisted shit Jigsaw comes up with.
I was enthralled.
And let me tell you, even if you couldn't care less about the writing or the characterization, this movie delivers in spades for the horror fans and fans of this franchise, with traps that are all at once unique, refreshingly simple, and an absolutely horrific display that left my jaw on the floor more than once, especially when it comes to one involving a Geely saw. If you know what that is, I'm sure you can imagine. And the traps just get better and better until, in my opinion, we get to one of the better twists in the franchise that adds an antagonist to this movie and literally does make John the hero, which, the more they go along with it, it eventually gets a little silly, but not in the good way that you expect from this franchise that echoes like cheesy cop dramas or soap operas.
You're too close to this thing, Zeke!
You serious?
More in the goofy, wow, they're really trying to twist this to make this guy into a hero type of way that left me a little confused, even though I appreciated the fact that this went for a little bit more of a hopeful ending, looking forward to the future of the franchise, instead of a nihilistic downer ending that literally every movie before that has had. And it really did leave me excited for more, especially with that post-credit scene. If you're a Saw fan, you have to stay through the credits. I also thought it had surprisingly great cinematography, abandoning that digital, highly saturated TV look from the other Saw movies in favor of more modern, clean cinematography. Yeah, Jigsaw and Spiral had that kind of cinematography, but those movies felt too clean and sanitized throughout the entire thing, hardly ever feeling like Saw movies. So even though we get clean, widescreen, super high definition quality here with actual depth and natural color, outside of certain scenes in Mexico that have that Breaking Bad filter on them, the sets and violence themselves are still very nasty and dirty in the typical Saw way and will feel right at home with fans of the franchise. So even though I have sort of a guilty pleasure for all the Saw movies, I know they're crap, but I love them no matter what. It's really nice to see one that tries in every department, from the writing to the performances to the makeup to the gore effects to even the emotional components, even if the climax doesn't completely come together the way they intended. Despite my love for Saw 3 and 4, this is easily the best in the franchise, and I can't wait to see where they go with the next one.
That movie was so awesome!
And they definitely will be making a next one. This movie made a shit ton of money, and they have almost unlimited time to pull out of their ass in this timeline for Jigsaw and his accomplices to test people before they end up dead. So let's go! And that's my review of Saw 10. If you like this review, you know exactly what to do. Please leave a like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you never miss any of my new reviews. While you're at it, you can find the links to my socials in the description below. Leave a comment with your thoughts, and if you want more content, you can click or tap on these cards right here. They'll take you to my review of The Exorcist Believer, or just over to my channel where you can check out my reviews, my shorts, and my old shit. Thanks for watching, everybody. I have no idea what I'm seeing next, so I'll see you next week for something.